Berlin Global is an online cultural diplomacy news platform which reports on cultural diplomacy activity and the means in which it is practiced and implemented in the German-speaking countries.
Berlin has about 17 partnerships with cities all over the world. Berlin is today one of the most exciting cities in the world, and 29 years ago we had all the remembrance of the fall of the wall. And thank you to your academy, ICD, that you are organizing such a process to discuss and to find answers for the question of our present, and that we are able to manage it for a better future. And that is not so easy.
The United Nations Charter, there are three major purposes. One is peace and security, and sustainable economic development, then human rights. These three principles are closely interrelated. There are some countries seemingly people seem to be enjoying economic or social development, but if their human rights are not respected under tight dictatorial regime, then however much economic development, social development.
There's a very active global pushback on women's rights and an attempt to undermine the progress that's been made by just about every minority group in every society that you can think of. So we are facing a whole range of challenges that deserve to be taken seriously, and then for people to organize to not just resist them, but overcome.
These issues, we have advanced enormously, but still we have the sense, the feeling of uncertainty, the fear, and the fear is all in different communities, in different parts. And we see that these fears and these, I would say, lack of opportunities for some people because of the huge inequalities, which unfortunately are increasing in the world, creates this sense of uncertainty. And then the rust belts, as we call them, vote in the way that we nowadays see dangerous, because they vote for populist parties, for the extremist parties, who try to give simple answers to complex issues, because I think this is what populism is all about. Simple answers to complex issues. And this has been recognized last year for the first time, and I'm very proud because we have made an enormous advocacy around the world, and with the Security Council, there was for the first time adopted a resolution 2347, the only such resolution which is in its totality dedicated to the protection of heritage, fighting illicit trafficking, looting of antiquities, and its role with peace, security, and humanitarian aspects. And I think it's a breakthrough for the thinking in the United Nations and the multilateral system.
We all stand here today with minds that can vividly flash back to that euphoric November day when you, the people, made revelation happen, when East and West reached out and held hands together, torn down the wall. You're the example of people power. Remains just as inspiring today as it was back then. It is my privilege to mark that momentous occasion with you all, never forgetting the will and the tenacity it required. Hope that the world can look back and look to Germany in 1989 and see what can be achieved if we focus on what unites us, love and humanity. Germany once stood divided. Today, Germany stands as one. Its people showed the way. Its people, not its politicians. Force change for the good. That is what we should never forget. We are one. We all have a voice. And when those voices speak as one, we're the music of the world. I'm looking forward to being part of the ICD to sort of inject some ideas and to show how we've been very fortunate, very blessed as a family around the world because of our music and because of the message.
And with a death toll of over 60 million, the two world wars over the recent century had been the beginnings of the development of a united Europe.
Es ist ein ungeheures Projekt gewesen, das 5 Jahre nach Ende des Zweiten Weltkrieges anzufangen.
It's been the most incredible project to get this started a mere 5 years after the end of the Second World War.
In Großbritannien. Ich habe nicht daran geglaubt, dass das schief geht. Und seit der Wahl von Trump als Präsident der Vereinigten Staaten, ich habe das auch nicht für möglich gehalten, bin ich skeptischer geworden.
But looking at our next friend, France, the forthcoming elections in France may, according at least to the most recent survey, still be won by Emmanuel Macron in the second ballot round, as against Marine Le Pen from the Front National. However, bearing in mind that myself, I would not have expected the Brexit referendum to be approved by the British to opt out of Europe, or for instance, against the backdrop of the unexpected, at least from a European point of view, unexpected election of Donald Trump to become the US president. Against all that previous recent experience, it is not unimaginable that things may turn.
With Social Democrats, Greens and Liberals. We had before the government of Angela Merkel with Social Democrats and Christian Democrats, but all parties say our goal is to include the Western Balkan countries into the European family. There's no debate between the parties. Everybody support the process, and we want that these countries will be members of the European Union, and with it too, of course, North Macedonia. There are reasons why we are talking about a pulley crisis for Europe. It includes also Russia's renewed imperial ambitions. It brought the war back again to Europe, but this is not an argument not to go ahead with the accession process of Western Balkan.
Also wir müssen diesen Weg verlassen, der Blockkonfrontation, die sich wieder auftut, der militärischen Logik, der militärischen Konfrontation. Und ich wünsche mir wirklich sehr, dass wir wieder in eine Welt kommen, wie wir sie am Ende des Kalten Krieges hatten, wie wir sie damals, auch die Einsicht von Michail Gorbatschow. Man muss aufeinander zugehen, um Frieden zu erreichen, weil ohne Frieden ist alles nichts. Also wir reden über Klimawandel, wir reden über ganz viele Probleme, die wir haben. Aber wenn der Frieden nicht gewahrt bleibt, dann brauchen wir uns über all das andere eigentlich keine Gedanken mehr zu machen. Und ich finde traurig, dass zum Beispiel auch in der Umweltbewegung dieser Aspekt zu wenig eine Rolle spielt, weil, wie gesagt, ohne Frieden ist alles nichts, ohne Frieden gedeiht keine Demokratie, ohne Frieden kann man auch die Umwelt- und Klimaprobleme nicht lösen. Und das ist, denke ich, ja, das Umsteuern, für das ich hier plädieren möchte.
Zwischen entwickelten Ländern und Ländern, die versuchen aufzuholen. Wenn es einen Teil einer marxistischen Theorie gibt, den ich akzeptiere, dann ist es der Hinweis darauf, dass jede Übertreibung eine Antithese provoziert. Jede Übertreibung schafft eine Antithese. Und jede Übertreibung, auch bei der Vermögens- und Einkommensentwicklung, bei der Verteilung von Problemen, von Lasten, führt, wenn es gleichzeitig weite Teile oder einen bestimmten Teil der Gesellschaft gibt, im internationalen Bereich genauso wie im nationalen Bereich und im Gesellschaftsbereich, provoziert damit Reaktionen, die sehr irrational sein können, die auch den Zulauf zu sehr irrationalen politischen Kräften provozieren können, wovon im Augenblick mehr rechtsradikale und rechtspopulistische Parteien profitieren als demokratische Parteien. Das heißt, da ich dieses Publikum so einschätze, dass sie nicht unbedingt zu den Have-Nots gehören, versuche ich ihnen zu vermitteln, dass es in ihrem ureigensten Interesse ist, diese Verteilungsprobleme bei ihren jeweiligen professionellen Aktivitäten sehr viel stärker im Blick zu haben, auch als ein Ergebnis dieser Zeitenwende. Vielen Dank für Ihre Aufmerksamkeit.
Ich bin hier in Berlin aufgewachsen. Als ich jünger war, von 6 Jahren alt bis 12. Und wir haben in Berlin-Dahlem gewohnt. It's tough. I'm too bad. Sorry. Nein. I just said why it's special to me is because I'm not going to speak very long in German. Because I a family grew up. I grew up from age 6 until 12 here in Germany. My family came in 2 weeks after the airlift in '49. Not interested particularly. I am finally interested, but not interested for me to become involved in politically. I would much rather get to know people, who they are. It will come out, and it says America is the dream. It's not true. America has many problems, and those are the issues that I'm interested in. But they have a great propaganda system. Yes, I'm part of it, but I can also see the difference between how to use television right in a good way and how it's used in a way that I don't appreciate personally.
And I like when all people are treated like human beings.
I am actually here on a mission. War is actually very silly, you know, and peace brings joy. So who wouldn't like to be happy? What one should really do is forget about the fighting and get into more of a free time and love to bring peace. With dance, you cannot really flog peace.
From day one, musicians and other people in the arts have tried to bring peace and love to people of the world. That's the power of music, ladies and gentlemen.
Come on, yeah, dance, dance.
I'd like to invite politicians, artists globally, younger people, older people, doesn't matter what age, to join me in my peace movement. And don't forget that the best weapon is peace.
You can't find while you're dancing. Dance, dance, dance. Everybody dance, dance, dance.
I tried to explain something, but I was a bit muddled by then. And I said I'd been in Ukraine for a few days, and I realized I was by the river, and I'd been swimming in the river Dnieper in Kiev just a couple of days ago. And I heard this. I said, what's going on? He said, they hate the people from Kiev. They hate them. The Cossacks from Zaporozhye have been at war with the Cossacks from Kiev for 600 or 700 years. They can't even remember how it started. Oh, blimey. He said, you've done it now. So I had to think quickly, and I said, right, well, you see, what I'm trying to say is that I was swimming in the river Dnieper 2 days ago, and it was freezing cold. And today, I was swimming in the same river 200 kilometers downstream, and it was much, much warmer. The reason is, because when I was in Kiev, I peed in the river because I can't stand those Cossacks from Kiev. I can't stand them. Which made them very happy. Anyway, eventually the hair got shorter, and we all grew up a little bit. But some years ago, I was back in Hounslow visiting my old chums and having a look at the church and the school and the places where I grew up, and I happened to go past that bus stop where we waited on so many Saturday afternoons for so long for this wretched bus to come along, and I recalled my father's words. He died when he was 57, and I was 27, I think, when died, and I hadn't been back there for a long time. And I looked up and I said, I wonder if the old magic's going to work. So I went 5, 4, and I looked, I said, my God. And I could see the little red bit at the top of the bus just going over the roof, and it came round the corner, and I thought, it's not a miracle after all. And now I know what my dad was saying. He said, Dad, he said, son, you'll understand when you grow up. Thank you.
Rather, we should make every effort to steer it in the ever-desired direction of freedom. The task before us, we sort of all agree with each other, will not be easy. That's the job, Yaka. That's why we should not all agree. That's why we should just act.
Actually, for us, cultural diplomacy is our already, which goes without saying, because we don't need. You see, you might give it a name, diplomacy, but it was there already. Because even if the old ladies, old people, young people come in, it's a diplomacy means how to talk, how to communicate, how to create relation to people. They have been even friends with those who were trying to colonize Ethiopia. They are still trying to win the heart of those who were bad on our people, who killed our people, but they are not taking grudge, and even everybody say, okay, that we have forgiven, again, afresh they start being welcoming to everybody. And when you travel, they show you the culture, how they dance, the music. It's very unique. You must have seen you said you are in Addis last time. And have you seen the skista, which is like very shocking and everybody?
I think so.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recognize it.
You must have tried that. You must have tried that. When you go to Addis without seeing that, next time you go, please try.
No, we also have the food, I remember as well, where we would sit around the table and we would share the big plates.
Yeah, but the dance is also one of the diplomacy where people will invite you, everybody will be invited. Old person, young people, everybody will join.
Excellent.
Democracy in Europe is working very well. But I think that we can agree, you and I and all the people in the audience, that it could work better. That's the only thing that I was pointing and highlighting in my presentation. That democracy it can work better at the European level and at state level. And the thing is that if we don't solve these problems at national level, Le Pen is going to win in France. Perhaps in Austria, the far-right party will win next elections, and in the end, what will happen with the integration of the European Union? Having in the government...
Sarawak is part of Malaysia, but it is quite difficult for you to imagine it unless you go to Sarawak yourself. And I'm not kidding, I'm the ambassador here, so I know. To share with you, or to at least give you a glimpse of what it is and how it is later by Datuk Karim to go to Sarawak at the International Tourism Board. And because of that, we thought that we'll capture Sarawak, bring it here, show it to you, and maybe you get a taste of what Sarawak is, and it will sort of give you some sort of a thirst to go to Sarawak.
Seitdem, wie gesagt, tobt diese Debatte wieder, Islam, Deutschland, ja oder nein. Ich persönlich muss Ihnen sagen, ich sehe das relativ entspannt. Ich glaube, beide Aussagen sind richtig. Ich meine auch, dass es richtig ist, dass sich unser Augenmerk auf die Kinder richtet. Ich glaube nicht, dass wir uns daran verkämpfen sollten, um die Frage, ob die 60-jährige Türkin, die seit 30 Jahren in Deutschland lebt, aber kein Deutsch spricht, ob die nur unbedingt jetzt noch Deutsch lernen muss oder nicht. Glaube ich nicht. Halte ich nicht für richtig. Wir haben nur eine bestimmte Möglichkeit von Kapazitäten. Und deswegen denke ich, ist es wichtig, dass wir sagen, wir müssen unser Augenmerk auf die Kinder und Jugendlichen richten, die jetzt hier sind und die auch hier bleiben werden, aller Voraussicht nach, und müssen sehen, dass wir die ordentlich integrieren.
The idea is that I give you a small picture over how Uruguay really is dealing with the partnership with the Arab world. Language and religion coupled with the legacy of classical antiquity and the contributions of other cultures with which the Arabs began to establish fluid contact, were the foundations that enabled the building of a civilization and a lasting empire which allowed for centuries a fairly harmonious coexistence between Muslims, Christians, and Jews.
We actively engage in nation branding activities, and what do these entail, these nation branding activities? What do they provoke? How do you think it's effective?
Yes, we are trying to host all international conference so people can come in the DRC and see that life still possible in the DRC. We are organize some tourism, like in Kinshasa. As I said, we have a natural park of Bonobo, and also this park of Bonobo receive funds from the UN, from the UNDP, from the German side, from all of the partners that who belong, who think that to promote tourism and keep the ecology side on the good way.
So the world is increasingly going to be multipolar. Nobody doubts that. And when you look at the economic trends, not just till now, but in the years to come, then Asia will clearly become a far more important part of the global economy, but so too will Latin America, and so too potentially over time may Africa. So until the global financial crisis in 2008-9, more than 50% of everything that was produced in the world, more than 50% of everything that was invested in the world, more than 50% of everything that was traded in the world, more than 50% of everything that was consumed in the world was consumed in the West.
Instituto de Diplomacia Cultural, pelo convite que me foi feito. E coloco-me à vossa disposição para qualquer pergunta que eventualmente queiram fazer. Muito obrigada.
On behalf of the Angolan government, I'll take the opportunity of this magnificent economic forum to invite German business people and other nationalities present at this forum to invest in Angola in the most diverse sectors of the Angolan economy, with emphasis on productive sectors such as agribusiness, fisheries, industries, tourism, infrastructures, constructions, health, education and professional technical training for the youth.
Ferro, cobre, magnésio, ouro e rochas ornamentais.
Angola is a country potentially rich in mineral resources. It is estimated that its subsoil contains 35 of the 45 most important minerals in the world trade. Among the following stand out: oil, natural gas, diamonds, phosphates, bituminous substances, iron, copper, magnesium, gold, and ornamental rocks.
So 10 years later, we were the first country in Europe to make a free trade agreement with China. The European Union is still waiting, despite all its strength, all its power, all its bureaucracy in Brussels. Then Switzerland followed us. And these two small countries in Europe actually led the way in creating free trade agreements with China.
Old New Building and seat of the German government, the Reichstag, to the most famous, longest canvas in the world and the relic of the Berlin Wall, the East Side Gallery, where they were enthralled by the photographer and graphic artist Gunther Schaefer. The Burundi diplomatic mission was an intensive 3-day marathon which consisted of discussions, talks, meetings, appointments, speeches, and receptions.
I came to play here to commemorate everyone who died because of this wall. These words, pronounced by Rostropovich, resonate forever in us to say how much, strong in symbolism, heavy in meaning, deep and dense in history, marked the course of history and constituted a real turning point. It is also important not to isolate ourselves, but on the opposite, to unite. And only a constant and honest dialogue can overcome the negative prejudices that have been established and that have somehow widened the gap between the North and South. And in this regard, and from my country's point of view, Europe would gain by turning more towards the countries of the South and by engaging in an ambitious European neighborhood policy.
I was posted in Germany from 91 till 95, and I've been General Director for European Affairs. I've been dealing with EU affairs all my career, and I was especially focused on Germany. So being ambassador in Berlin, it's something that not only is important as itself, but professionally very fulfilling for me. We do a lot of activities in labor aspects with all these young people that come here to Germany. We education, we have a very high profile, and we want to remain very high in this profile, because I think that helps the Germans to understand our country better and helps the Spaniards to have a more not only clear understanding of what is going on here, but also a better instrument to influence in the local debate, in the national debate, to get to pass through our positions, our interests, our goals in the German society, and that is very important.
This is our planet, our precious and blue home. Guide and protect her future with every new dawn. We need love and understanding to make a new day. Hold out a helping hand, and we will surely find our way. The future is unwritten.
Allow me, Honorable Minister, to announce that this evening is happening after Zimbabwe scooped 3 awards from the Pacific Area Travel Writers Association, PATWA, at the just ended International Tourism Boss. Thank you. Our Minister, Honorable N.M. Dopu, won the Tourism Minister of the Year award. That's just... And our Chief Executive Officer won the Best Professional Destination Management Award. Mr. Kanyuka. Above all, Zimbabwe won the Destination of the Year award for its natural beauty. Yes. Not just the natural endowments, but the people are also beautiful at heart. I cannot leave this podium tonight without saying Zimbabwe is a great country with great human capital and vast opportunities in every sector. We invite you all to visit and invest in our great country of wonders. Zimbabwe is a country of wonders. We are also amazed of what we have, and you will also be amazed of what we have.
Walls divide, and walls don't work. The Chinese wall did not work against their enemies. The Berlin Wall did not work against freedom. The US-Mexico wall does not work against the freedom of migrating, as we all human beings do.
If the goal of the cultural diplomacy is to promote, let's say, Slovenian culture towards Germany, it could also be a kind of propaganda in the positive sense of the word. So it is more about the exchange. But of course, if I speak, let's say, very good about my country, what I do in my presentation, do I make propaganda for my country? or marketing or public relations. So anyhow, I do all this. But under the line, I think that this is a task of every ambassador, of every diplomat, to promote the country we are coming from.
For us, because if you look at peace projects, and peace is ultimately what cultural diplomacy is about, I think that the biggest peace project ever was the European Union. When you're looking at cultural diplomacy, when you're looking at bringing people together, and you're looking at trying to achieve peace agreements. Ireland was occupied by Britain for 800 years, and we had lots of rebellions along the way, and they all failed. But the most salient one is 1916, the Easter Rising in 1916, and that, in a sense, thanks very much. That in a sense opened the road to Irish independence. There was a war with Britain, and then there was a peace agreement in 1922. And out of 1922, you have the creation of two states. You have the creation of Ireland with 26 counties, and then the northeastern corner became Northern Ireland because the population up there were strongly unionist and wanted to remain part of the United Kingdom.
That this war is not only against Ukraine. This war against the West. And it is already going into the stage of expanded world war. We think that if we will not give equipment, or if we will push Ukraine to negotiate the peace, everything will stop. No, opposite. As it happened after Crimea, we didn't react it appropriately, Putin went further. The same will be the case if we will push or somehow strangle Ukraine to not to fight and to give up some territories. It will be only the pause until Russia will be on our territories.
And cultural diplomacy plays an important role in strengthening the democratic practice. This has, of course, to do with the essence of cultural diplomacy, which I would describe as, and I quote, I'm not intelligent enough to invent that myself, but I quote, cultural diplomacy can be described as the exchange of ideas, values, traditions, and other aspects of culture or identity to strengthen intercultural relations, to enhance socio-cultural cooperation, with the ultimate goal of contributing to global peace and stability.
We have had very high levels of youth unemployment, and we seem to be lacking the kind of education to get them into the labor market. It's now better, but that's very much linked to the good economic times, and in part of Europe it's still on a very high level.
Als ich die Einladung erhielt zu diesem besonderen Symposium, in dem im Mittelpunkt das Thema Cultural Diplomacy stehen soll, war ich gespannt. Und das ist wirklich kulturelle Diplomatie im besten Sinne.
This is cultural diplomacy in the best sense.
Das ist auch das, was hier eben gelebt und gefördert wird und ja auch im Mittelpunkt steht.
And this is exactly what is happening right here at the Institute for Cultural Diplomacy, who lives and is dedicated to this cause. Therefore, the point I'm trying to make is once in the cases when the United Nations is able to overcome the political conflicts and the struggles of dealing with the democratic institutions within the UN, and when it actually is able to touch the individuals and make a difference, it really can make a difference, such as through the institutions that I just mentioned, where it really did have a serious impact on the lives of the individuals touched by all of those organizations.
Few other cities have played such an instrumental role in global affairs over the past 100 years.
I would focus my talk today on what we have in Pakistan as a tourist destination, as a place where the world can do business, an emerging economic powerhouse, and a beautiful cultural expression of South Asia, which is an emerging Pakistan, where people are where the GDP growth rate has now become one of the highest in the world, where tourism is back with a bang, where people are, they've started focusing more on things like fashion and arts and music and culture and all that, rather than the problems of insecurity. So that, that is the good news emerging from Pakistan. And we have the governor of Gilgit and Baltistan, who's also, by the way, his family has been the ruler for that region, in that region for 900 years. So that's another beautiful part of our history. He's also what we call the Wali Hunza, like the ruler of Hunza, in that way. So I'm very glad that he'd be here to talk more about that. Thank you.
Through public tenders or public and private partnerships, or for, let's say, private investors and entrepreneurs. So these are going to be very important, and we have conveyed invitations to many leaders of the world. An invitation has been conveyed to Chancellor Angela Merkel. We look forward to strong German participation. We have been in touch with the German Employers Association to send a big delegation. We are looking forward to an additional expression and manifestation of German support.
And when one man is enslaved, all are not free. When all are free, then we can look forward to that day when this city will be joined as one, and this country and this great continent of Europe in a peaceful and hopeful globe. When that day finally comes, as it will, the people of West Berlin can take sober satisfaction in the fact that they were in the front lines for almost 2 decades.
And as Martin Luther King said, and I quote, "Darkness cannot drive out darkness. Only light can do that. Hate cannot drive out hate. Only love can do that. Even the smallest of our actions and attitudes can make a difference. Respect, even in times of difference and adversity, is the basis of a peaceful and harmonious coexistence. This is everybody's responsibility."
And there is a broad political consensus in Norway on foreign policy which ensures consistency, regardless of changing governments. The second factor is pragmatism. Norway has also demonstrated a willingness to talk to all parties in the conflict. In that sense, we are pragmatic.
I would like to start by referring to the celebration this year of the United Nations 70th anniversary. And this anniversary is important to us since the ICD's objectives are enshrined in the United Nations foundational objectives. The ICD is in fact strengthening its links with the United Nations.
It has been, in every sense of the word, a battleground. A battleground not just for armies, but for the ideas and philosophies that are the very foundations of politics and society.
So we have to make a big compliment to our citizens from Eastern Germany that they made the first time in German history a revolution successful. And what makes this revolution different from other revolutions, it was a complete and entire non-violent revolution. Not a single drop of blood was used to make this revolution possible. So I believe this is really crucial and remarkable. In my opinion, must go one step further. In 1989, Germans from East Germany and Germans from West Germany came together and assembled under one new umbrella as the United Germany. But in my opinion, beside its glory, it's also a history of a missed opportunity. Why am I saying a missed opportunity? Because in my opinion, it would have been an incredible chance to go that one step further and say we also include the people of non-German origin under that bigger umbrella of the new reunified Germany. Today I believe it's still not too late. So I think if we want to complete the reunification process of Germany, it is time to say that non-Germans, people of non-German origin from both sides, from East and from West, as you know, in East we also had people from the so-called brother states, Mozambique, Angola, Vietnam, Cuba and other countries, and in the West the so-called guest workers, my forefathers, they also belong to this country, they're taxpayers, so I think it would make sense to also define what makes this new Germany.
The problems for our country is that we don't have a good connections of the airplanes. Yeah, for us it's very expensive to go to Bolivia from Europa or United States or Canada, and we don't have many connections. Yeah, that is one challenge. Is why we have a new, relative new airplane enterprises. That is BOA, Boliviana de Aviación, and now we have more connections and more flights to Bolivia. Of course, another challenge is like we need many infrastructure, but we don't want to be like another countries with big hotels or big buildings or big infrastructure. More than, how I say, maybe little, but with harmony with the nature and with the Mother Earth, and the experiences about culture, adventure, and diversity. We want to protect this part of our country. Is why we must look how we can do infrastructure, but no in the traditional way. No, we don't want these big malls or so. And another challenge is like that we
I love the tapas in Madrid, that's a top thing, that I don't see it elsewhere. Of course you like it. You go to Soho in London, and see Cats, Phantom of the Opera, or a Brazilian soap opera, or ABBA, or We Will Rock You of Queen, That's war legacy now, Or you can have what we had last Sunday, the culture, the Carnival of the Cultures, where the world is showing in Berlin its own tastes. You could have Colombian, it's African, Indian touch. A percentage of working unemployment and the highest occupation of young people due to dual education. Now what we have proposed as government is form a pilot program to lead education in our state and mix companies to develop. And of course, Germany will support us a lot with this field. Technology also, technology that Germany is the #1 in the world is surely highly welcome. We want partners, we don't want bosses. That's the main difference.
For almost 4 decades, capitalist West Berlin stood in juxtaposition with communist East Berlin. Two contrasting visions for the world were separated by a concrete wall. Berlin was the pinprick on which the entire weight of the Cold War was focused.
Right answer is global governance, good global governance. We need global rules to shape globalization, socially and ecologically. And if we talk about sovereignty, and you talk about shaping globalization, you have to understand and to learn, and that's different to Rupert Scholz from my point, that is not national sovereignty.
Je remercie vivement les organisateurs de ce forum, en l'occurrence le directeur général de l'ICD, qui n'a cessé de témoigner sa sympathie envers le Burundi en réservant une soirée pour vendre la belle image de notre chère patrie, le Burundi, avec un crédit de 10 millions par colline pour appuyer le développement de la population afin d'améliorer les conditions de vie.
ICD invited people, the diaspora of Burundi. We want to state that Burundi is a sovereign democracy and that we're implementing institutions for youth and women. The goal is to develop and increase conditions in the country.
The same masters who are promoting globalization, now they are pulling back and they are calling for globalization in trade, in investment, and even in culture. There's no more tolerance for cultural diversification and also for cultural difference between us and most of European maybe countries and the population of Germany. So we have a good room to accommodate them, and they are very welcome actually in Sudan as brothers and sisters. And they are maybe they feel home and they can get back to their home, to their homes and to their countries as far as the situation is getting better in their countries.
We are facing challenges in Pakistan like terrorism, and it's not our own creation. Let me correct this false understanding that we were very peace-loving citizens of the world in Pakistan. But in 1980s, Russia attacked Afghanistan.
Wherever they may live, are citizens of Berlin. And therefore, as a free man, I take pride in the words, Ich bin ein Berliner.
The world is quite another one than it was directly after World War II. And then, this is my personal opinion, not only our governments should represent us, the United Nations should be controlled by a parliament chosen by all citizens of this globe. There is a worldwide initiative asking for this global parliament I am belonging to. Today, this seems to be utopian. But one day it will be reality, I'm quite convinced. Only 30 years ago, who could imagine at that time the internet we now have? Who had spoken about climate change as such a serious challenge we now recognize? We together are confronted with enormous challenges we only can solve together. That is what we must do.
When the wall fell in 1989, the images of people breaking through the barrier and embracing each other sent shockwaves around the world. It was the beginning of the international system as we understand it today. The reporting of the Berlin Global news stories is sourced from an assortment of different areas, including the public and private sectors, the diplomatic community, NGOs, and a number of different academic
and all over the world,
institutions.
we'll see the Irish fans, and they'll see that they're extremely well behaved, very lively, very friendly, very impressive when they meet people. And we found, for example, when Ireland qualified for the World Cup in Italy in 1990, because of that, the number of Italian tourists coming to Ireland the following year went up hugely, because they met these Irish people and discovered, hey, these people are a bit different. They're not like English or Americans. They speak English, but they're a bit different. They're a bit more, they have a different culture, different approach to life, you know. And that's not to say in any way to criticize or to say that England or America are, but they're just different. And people, when they see Irish people first, they think, oh, well, it's just like a kind of a branch of the general English-speaking world. When they meet Irish people, they realize that we're somewhat different. We have a temperament that's somewhat different, which comes from our Celtic roots, our Celtic past. That'll be my explanation of how national branding relates to our current situation.
This year we celebrate 30th anniversary of the signing of the Treaty on Friendly Cooperation and Partnership in Europe between the Federal Republic of Germany and Romania. Our bilateral political dialogue and cooperation in various fields is at its highest level. Both our countries are committed to further deepen bilateral relations, as well as to intensify the privileged partnership of strategic nature in fostering a strong and cohesive Europe united by the values of democracy, rule of law, and respect for human rights. In April this year, our Ministers of Foreign Affairs signed a declaration on the 30th anniversary with a document which encompasses best our achievements and aspirations for the future.
Berlin Global reports on the activities of foreign embassies, state-sponsored cultural institutions, and the numerous consulates, which are located in the capital cities of German-speaking countries. Events which are organized by the copious different embassies are often reported on, as are interviews with the various ambassadors who are positioned currently in the embassies.
Truth. So I would like to wish good celebrate for all the women. We must together continue the fight to end violence against women. Today our planet is exposed to an unprecedented environmental stress because of the negative effects of climate change. So, the climate change is a global challenge, and it is very important to note that the developing countries will strongly undergo the fatal consequences of planetary climatic variability. Therefore, Burkina Faso, which is a Sahelian country landlocked in the middle of West Africa, had to deal with the impact of climate change since the 70s, in particular to recurring droughts.
It doesn't represent any competition, because when we present ourselves in the world, we present ourselves in the world as a region. One country could be 9 million people, like Honduras is, but when it comes to Honduras within the Central American system, we are a region of over 55 million people. So when you take a look at Europe, Europe is an example of the fact that there is no competition, because each country has its own identity and each country has its own selling point. And so as Europeans, or European countries, have its own identity by country, we have our own identity by country. So there's no reason why we should be afraid of a little competition. Plus, a little competition is good.
And the new and global understanding of our culture and traditions has confronted and largely overcome anti-Irish prejudices, which were commonplace in Britain and in the United States, in particular in the 19th and 20th century. And it took us a long time to overcome those prejudices, and thankfully this generation has gained the benefits of that, where they can work freely from Australia to America and in every part of the world.
The business and tourism sections of the site focus on the private sector CSR activities, the economy and the economic relationships between countries, bilaterally and multilaterally. The touristic section focuses on the cultural touristic attractions and the numerous events, which hosted through the year. Cultural diplomacy, or diplomacy between cultures, has existed as a practice for centuries. With the term cultural diplomacy has only recently been established, evidence of its practice can be seen through history and has existed for centuries.
Democracy, to have a stable, successful democracy, to concentrate in order to focus on the core of the society. Now we also have the perception in Germany that our society is polarizing. In some way it's also radicalizing. And I think now it must be the main goal and the main objective of all the democratic parties in Germany to strengthen the middle of our society. I think that's very important too. I think democracy will only be wished by other peoples if they see that there is a personal benefit from living in a democracy. If only a small part of the society benefits from a democracy, I think the majority will say that's not the best way of living in. So I think their convincing arguments are much more important than to travel into another country and to implement a democracy a little bit by force. So that's the wrong attitude, to be honest.
Yeah, the ITB, it is the tourist conference, yeah? You mean the one in March here in Germany? Yes, this is a good forum actually, because it's an international forum. It is well attended by more than 17,000, participants, and for us it is not profitable, because for us it is, we present as an embassy. There is some other countries.
No, we didn't mean it was for you profitable. I mean for South Sudan.
Yeah, it profits South Sudan, of course, because from there, when we present our culture, we present what we really area of tourism where they have never seen it before, and maybe many people don't know about it. Now we have many tourists who go to South Sudan.
Are here already present to do their part, and work needs to continue. Also, within the European Union, where you have heard already excellent contributions, so we are looking for understanding cultural diversity and developing cross-sectoral synergies when formulating policies. So in the matter of fact, the cultural diversity is at the core of the European society, also in our history.
Explorers, travelers, traders, teachers, and artists can be all considered living examples of informal ambassadors or early cultural diplomats. Indeed, any person who interacts with different cultures, currently or in the past, facilitates a form of cultural exchange. Through history, the interaction of peoples, the exchange of language, religion, ideas, arts, and societal structures have consistently improved relations between divergent groups.
There is a different rationale there. Bucharest recognized this earlier, and not only Bucharest, also other Eastern countries which were confronted with the aggressivity from Moscow for many years. But this kind of aggressivity was not clearly seen in other European countries. So that's why, probably people were blind, naive, or just wishing to think that that the life will be better and world will be better if we count on dialogue of working together on win-win approaches. This was not the case in Moscow. So now we know it.
Internationale Küche serviert, mit frischem Fisch und guten Steaks, was beides ja durchaus den Genussmenschen vieler Länder gefallen dürfte. Und täglich werden auch frische Kuchen und Torten angeboten, die von einem ehemaligen Konditor-Weltmeister aus Berlin gebacken werden. Im Restaurant finden etwa 150 Gäste Platz auf 2 Ebenen und mit Zugang über 2 Treppen. Barrierefrei, aber auch mit einem Fahrstuhl. Vom Restaurant führen 2 Eingänge direkt in den großen Veranstaltungssaal, genannt Red Ballroom, der wiederum von der modernen Technik des ehemaligen FAB-Fernsehstudios profitiert. Dazu gehören unter anderem ein professionelles Licht- und Soundsystem, eine geräuschlose Klimaanlage sowie eine große Hebebühne für Kulissen oder Produktpräsentationen. Ideal also für soziale, kommerzielle oder kulturelle Veranstaltungen aller Art mit Platz für bis zu 600 Personen gesamt bzw. 300 Personen mit Theaterbestuhlung. Samt Galerie, von der aus auch das Geschehen auf Bühne und Tanzparkett verfolgt werden kann. Bis zum Beginn der indonesischen Oper an diesem Abend blieb uns noch etwas Zeit für einen Aperitif an der Cocktailbar und für ein paar Fotos für die Hausfotografin. Da wir aber auch zum Essen verabredet waren, nahmen wir es sodann in Kauf, für ein schönes Abendmahl im Restaurant den ersten Akt der Opera Batak zu verpassen.
That the continental organization, the African Union, should focus on family planning and critical population growth controls mechanisms to ensure that the rate of population growth is kept within the pace of industrial and economic transformation it takes. In this regard, it should be of primary concern not only for Africa, but also for the whole international community, led by the United Nations, to cooperate in assisting Africa manage this crucial challenge.
My message, and I hope this message is a message to the leader of the Middle East, is simple. Respect minorities, all minorities, and you will find the path to peace and development. Exclude minorities, drive out the Christian of the East, and you will create the condition for a permanent disorder that will feed the cycle of violence and deprive your people of the security and prosperity to which they are entitled.
For example, the establishment of regular trade routes enables a frequent exchange of information and cultural gifts, and expressions between traders and government representatives. Such deliberate efforts of cultural and communication exchange can be identified as early examples of cultural diplomacy.
So we need to build a transparent European government, not only, I think, to guarantee economic efficiency, but also to safeguard Europe's cultural and linguistic diversity. To guarantee, for example, the rule of law and democracy everywhere on our continent. Because let's not make a mistake in the coming years, in my opinion, 4-5 years, just before towards the new European election. It will be a real fight, if I may say so, for the soul of Europe, between those who stand by liberal democracy and those who want an illiberal Europe, an unconstitutional Europe.
Foreign languages, the skills for foreign languages, the need for this is self-evident in a small country. I mean, we don't argue about it, we don't discuss it, we just do it. We just learn languages. In our high schools, there are mostly 3 obligatory foreign languages which you need to learn. And the program you refer to, the possibility for Estonians to graduate with this German certificate, the German Abitur certificate. This, of course, is rather exceptional. This is only provided, I think, in a couple of schools in Estonia. But obviously it's very, very favorable for the young people who then, of course, equal on the German job market if they so wish, or most importantly in the German universities.
Margaret Friedlander said, I quote, "There's no Christian, no Jews or Muslim blood. There's only human blood."
world. So I'm going to end with one final question, and that is, Hillary Rodham Clinton, what is the greatest lesson you have ever learned?
It's a lesson that I have learned from watching these people who I've been privileged to meet, starting with people like Nelson Mandela, but all the way up to Saturday night in Munich, where I shared a panel with the rightfully elected president of Belarus, who is the president in exile, a woman from Myanmar who spent many years in prison, was elected to the new parliament and now is in the government in exile because the military coup took over. A woman who has campaigned against compulsory hijab in Iran and literally has had to be moved by the FBI in the United States because she's in our country to escape assassination by Iranian agents. And by Maria Ressa, the Nobel Prize winning journalist from the Philippines, who was hit with numerous politically based charges because she was exposing corruption. I sat and listened to those women and their resilience, their determination to stand up for truth, for democracy, for freedom, for human rights, to try to understand the complexity of the situations that we find ourselves in, but try to find common ground wherever you can. And that really is inspiring to me because, like I say, I've had an incredible set of experiences, but I meet people like that